Ever get that feeling like you're, meant for something bigger? Like
Hmm.
you're on a mission, but the destination's kind of still fuzzy.
Yeah.
Well, today's deep dive might just bring that mission into focus.
Okay.
We're taking a look at Plumbline Ministries,
Okay.
a Christian organization that's all about living with purpose.
Right.
And they believe that Christians are heaven's ambassadors here on earth.
Hmm.
Intriguing, right? So
Yeah.
we're diving into their blog posts, product descriptions, even testimonials
Wow.
to unpack what they mean by this ambassador role and what it might mean for you.
That's interesting because what I find fascinating is how Plumbline Ministries uses this ambassador analogy
Yeah.
to bridge the gap between faith and everyday life.
Okay.
So instead of keeping Christianity in a neat little box,
Uh-huh.
they're suggesting it should permeate everything we do,
Oh.
kind of like a diplomat representing their home country.
So it's not just about Sunday service. It's about living out your beliefs in a tangible way.
Exactly. And they back this up with scripture, of course, quoting 6 Corinthians 5:2.
Mm-hmm.
We are therefore Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us.
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
It really is. It makes you wonder if you are an ambassador for something bigger than yourself, what kind of impact could that have on your decisions, your relationships, even your career?
That's a great question. And Plumbline goes even deeper, suggesting we don't actually choose this ambassador role, we're chosen for it. They use the term appointed, not elected.
Right.
Drawing on John 15:16,
Mm-hmm.
you did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit. Have you ever felt drawn to a certain path or purpose, even if it wasn't part of your original plan?
I think we've all had those moments where something just clicks,
Right.
where we feel a sense of alignment that's hard to explain. It's like
Yeah.
a deep inner knowing that we're on the right track.
That's exactly the feeling Plumbline is tapping into.
Yeah.
This idea that we're not just wandering aimlessly, we're on assignment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we're appointed, not elected, what does a heaven's ambassador actually do? What are the responsibilities that come with this role? Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. If we're all secret agents for the kingdom, what's our mission objective?
Well, according to Plumbline, the first order of business is total commitment.
Okay,
No divided loyalties here.
got it.
They quote Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters,
Right.
emphasizing that we have to choose what we're truly committed to.
That makes me think about all the little compromises we make every day,
Yeah.
the ways we try to please everyone or hedge our bets. What does that level of commitment really look like in the messy reality of daily life?
That's a great question, and one that I think a lot of people grapple with.
Mhm.
Plumbline seems to suggest it's less about outward actions and more about an internal shift in allegiance. It's about aligning your heart and mind with the values of the kingdom, letting those values guide your decisions even when it's difficult.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about striving to live in alignment with your beliefs even when you mess up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another key responsibility,
Okay.
embodying the message.
Mm-hmm.
Plumbline emphasizes representing Christ in our actions and words, quoting Galatians 2:12, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. It's about letting your actions speak louder than words, letting your life be a testament to your beliefs.
It's that whole walk the walk thing, right?
Yeah.
But how does Plumbline suggest we navigate those tricky situations where our beliefs might clash with cultural norms or popular opinions? Do we just stay silent?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
They talk about speaking with authority, not our own opinions, but God's message, using John 12:49 as support.
Uh-huh.
For I did not speak on my own, but the Father who sent me commanded me to say all that I have spoken.
So it's about finding that balance between staying true to your convictions and engaging in respectful dialogue.
That seems to be the key. And this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Because Plumbline offers resources like their Living Water of the Kingdom audio series,
Okay.
which claims to help listeners tap into this inner authority and speak their truth with confidence and grace.
It sounds like they're offering a roadmap, a way to navigate the complexities of being an ambassador in a world that doesn't always share your worldview.
Precisely. And the testimonials and promises of transformation associated with this series suggest that people are finding it incredibly impactful.
Wow.
It's not just theory.
Yeah.
It's about real-life application and personal growth.
So they're not just preaching from a pulpit, they're providing practical tools and resources to help people live out these concepts.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so intriguing. It's not just about believing in something. It's about embodying it,
Right.
becoming a living, breathing example of the values you hold dear. But what does that actually look like in the real world? How do these heaven's ambassadors actually make a difference?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll delve into Plumbline's vision for how these ambassadors can impact the world around them and the challenges and triumphs they might encounter along the way.
Stay tuned, because things are about to get really interesting as we unpack the concept of spiritual warfare and explore the power of stewardship.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Yeah.
This is good stuff.
Definitely.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Plumbline Ministries' vision of Christians as heaven's ambassadors.
Yes.
We've explored the call to represent something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
But what happens when that calling leads us into a world that doesn't always share our values?
That's where things get interesting.
Yeah.
And Plumbline doesn't shy away from the tougher aspects of this ambassador role.
Okay.
In fact, they introduce a concept that might sound a bit intense.
Oh.
Spiritual warfare.
Spiritual warfare.
Yep.
It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel. What exactly are we battling here?
Well, it's not about dragons and demons,
Okay.
but more about a clash of worldviews.
Okay.
Plumbline sees the world as a battleground between good and evil, light and darkness.
Yeah.
They believe that by aligning ourselves with God's will and living as His ambassadors, we can actually push back against negative forces and bring positive change to the world.
So it's less about fighting a literal enemy and more about standing firm in your convictions even when they're unpopular.
Exactly. And Plumbline suggests this battle plays out in our everyday choices. The media we consume, the conversations we engage in, even the thoughts we allow to take root in our minds.
That makes it feel much more relatable,
Right.
much more applicable to everyday life. But how do we equip ourselves for this spiritual warfare? What are the weapons in our arsenal?
Well, Plumbline emphasizes the importance of practices like prayer,
Okay.
studying the Bible, and surrounding yourself with a supportive community of believers. They believe these practices help us develop a strong inner foundation, a kind of spiritual resilience that allows us to stand firm in the face of challenges.
So it's not about going out and preaching on street corners. It's about cultivating a strong inner life first.
Precisely. They believe that true transformation starts from within. And this leads us to another key concept they explore, stewardship.
Stewardship. I usually associate that with like managing finances.
That's one aspect of it.
Yeah.
But Plumbline takes a much broader view.
Okay.
They see stewardship as being responsible for all that God has entrusted to us, our time, our talents, our resources, and even our influence. It's about recognizing that everything we have is a gift.
Right.
And we're accountable for how we use it.
So it's about using what we have in all areas of our lives to
Yeah.
make a positive impact on the world.
Yes, it's about aligning our actions with our values, recognizing that even small, everyday choices can have ripple effects.
Yeah.
This ties back to the ambassador analogy. A good ambassador doesn't just represent their nation's interests. They do so with care, intentionality, and a deep sense of responsibility.
That's a great point. It makes you think about how we spend our time, what we prioritize, and whether those choices reflect the values we claim to represent.
Exactly. And Plumbline challenges us to ask ourselves,
Okay.
are we being good stewards of the gifts we've been given? Are we using our time, talents, and resources to bring about positive change?
These are tough questions.
Yes.
But important ones. It's easy to get caught up in the busyness of life and forget that we have a responsibility to something larger than ourselves.
Absolutely. And Plumbline emphasizes that this something larger is the kingdom of God.
Okay.
They describe it as a reality that's both present and future, something we can experience now, but also something we're working towards.
So it's not about waiting for some far-off paradise. It's about bringing those values of love, justice, and peace into the here and now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we're not just passive recipients of God's grace. We're active participants in building His kingdom here on earth. And that brings us back to the heart of Plumbline's message.
Yeah.
Every Christian is a heaven's ambassador, tasked with bringing a little bit of heaven to earth, one act of kindness, one courageous choice, one conversation at a time.
It's a beautiful vision. But I imagine there are challenges and rewards that come with embracing this ambassador role. What does Plumbline have to say about the personal transformation that takes place as we live out this calling?
That's a great question, and one we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive. We'll look at the personal impact of embracing this ambassador role, the challenges, the rewards, and the profound sense of purpose it can bring.
We're back for the final part of our deep dive into Plumbline Ministries' concept of heaven's ambassadors.
Right, yeah.
We've talked about the responsibilities and the potential impact, but now I'm curious, how does embracing this ambassador role actually change us as individuals?
That's where Plumline's message gets really personal.
Mm.
They suggest that this isn't just about changing the world around us, it's about a deep inner transformation.
Okay.
They use phrases like renewed sense of purpose and living water,
Mm.
suggesting a wellspring of fulfillment that comes from aligning your life with a higher calling.
It's like finding your place in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Realizing you're part of something much bigger than yourself. But does that mean giving up your own individuality, your own ambitions?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Plumline seems to suggest that it's more about finding a way to integrate your unique gifts and passions
Mm-hmm.
with a purpose that transcends your own ego. It's about using your talents to serve something greater than yourself and finding a deeper sense of satisfaction in that process.
That makes sense. But let's be honest. It can't all be sunshine and roses.
Yes.
Surely there are challenges that come with embracing this ambassador role, right?
Of course, Plumline acknowledges the difficulties.
Yeah.
They talk about the potential for rejection, misunderstanding, even persecution
Wow.
for standing up for what you believe in.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to be a voice in the wilderness, especially when the prevailing culture might not share your values.
It reminds me of that saying.
Yeah.
If you're not making waves, you're not swimming. Or in this case, maybe. If you're not facing resistance, are you really representing a different kingdom?
That's a great way to put it. And Plumline emphasizes that we don't have to go through these challenges alone.
Oh,
You can
God.
talk about the importance of community, of surrounding yourself with fellow ambassadors
Yeah.
who can offer encouragement, support, and accountability.
It's that iron sharpens iron principle, right? We
Mhm.
need each other to stay strong and focused on the mission, especially when the going gets tough.
Absolutely. But here's what I find really interesting.
Okay.
Plumline doesn't just see these challenges as obstacles.
Yeah.
They see them as opportunities for growth.
Mm-hmm.
They suggest that facing opposition can actually strengthen our faith, refine our character, and deepen our dependence on God.
So it's not about avoiding hardship, but about seeing it as part of the refining process.
Exactly. And they believe that the rewards far outweigh the difficulties. They talk about experiencing a deeper level of intimacy with God,
Mhm.
a greater sense of peace and purpose, and the joy of seeing lives transformed as we live out our calling.
It's like we're not just representing the kingdom, we're being transformed by it in the process.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And that journey of transformation, that ongoing process of growth and refinement, seems to be at the heart of what Plumline is trying to convey.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about arriving at a destination.
Right.
It's about the journey itself.
So what does this all mean for our listeners? What's the takeaway here, even for those who might not identify as Christians?
Well, I think there's something universally appealing about the idea of living a life of purpose, of making a difference, of being part of something bigger than yourself.
Hmm.
Whether or not you subscribe to Plumline's specific theology,
Mm-hmm.
there's a powerful human desire to leave a mark on the world, to contribute something meaningful.
It's like that innate longing we all have to find our place in the grand tapestry of life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while Plumline might frame this in terms of being a heaven's ambassador, I think the core message resonates with anyone who wants to live a life that matters.
Yeah.
It's about aligning your actions with your values, finding your purpose, and then going out and making a difference.
It's about recognizing that we all have a role to play, no matter how big or small, in creating a world that reflects our highest aspirations.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Plumline's message at its core is a call to action. It's a challenge to step into our potential, to embrace our purpose, and to become agents of positive change in the world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Plumbline Ministries' vision of heaven's ambassadors, I'm left with this lingering question.
Okay.
If we were to fully embrace the idea that our lives have a purpose, that our actions matter, that we have the power to make a difference, what kind of world could we create? That's something worth thinking about, isn't it?
It really is.
Thanks for joining us.
That was my pleasure.